5, new comments from President Donald Trump raising questions about the upcoming 2026 FIFA World Cup games.
And Atlanta is one of the hosting cities, but President Trump is threatening to pull the games out of cities that he deems dangerous.
Well, with the World Cup coming to Canadian soil next year, soccer fans were eagerly anticipating today's official draw to see who the Canucks would face next summer.
Canada will face Qatar and Switzerland in the group stage of the FIFA World Cup. Canada secured its place in the tournament as a co-host with Mexico and the United States.
In 2026, the biggest sporting event on Earth is coming to North America. The stadiums are larger, the crowds will be louder, the broadcast numbers will shatter records. On paper, it looks like a triumphant moment for the United States, a global showcase of power, culture, and capability. But behind the banners and sponsorships, something unexpected is unfolding. While America prepares for the spotlight, millions of international fans are quietly changing their travel plans. Not because they don't love the game, not because they can't afford the tickets, but because getting into the country has become a challenge many simply don't want to face. And as that hesitation grows, another nation, quieter, smaller, often underestimated, is stepping into an opportunity that may redefine how the 2026 tournament is remembered. This isn't just a story about soccer, it's about access, it's about perception, and it's about how global power can shift, not with confrontation, but with coordination. When the 2026 FIFA World Cup was awarded jointly to the United States, Canada, and Mexico, the narrative was clear. This would be America's grand stage. With the majority of matches scheduled in U.S. cities, world-class stadiums ready, and unmatched commercial infrastructure, the United States was expected to dominate the tournament's identity. But hosting the world requires more than stadiums. It requires openness. Over the past year, visa processing times for entry into the United States have expanded dramatically in several regions. In some countries, average wait times have stretched beyond 5 months. In others, they approach a year or more. For a fan hoping to attend a specific match on a specific date, that kind of uncertainty turns excitement into anxiety. Add to that increased fees, evolving documentation requirements, and stricter entry reviews, and what was once a straightforward travel plan begins to feel unpredictable. Now imagine you are a fan in South America, Europe, or Asia. You've saved for years to attend a World Cup. Flights are expensive, accommodation is scarce, tickets sell out instantly. The last thing you want is a bureaucratic delay that leaves you watching from home. So what do? You look for certainty. And that's where Canada enters the picture. Canada is hosting fewer matches, just 13 in Toronto and Vancouver. On paper, that makes it a secondary stage. But while headlines focused on scale, Canadian organizers focused on execution. Infrastructure upgrades in both cities were initiated early. Stadium expansions were completed on schedule. Transportation plans were coordinated across federal, provincial, and municipal levels. Communication remained consistent and low drama. There were no sudden policy shifts, no public disputes over venue locations, no speculation about relocating matches, just steady preparation. At the same time, airlines began reporting a noticeable trend. International bookings into Canadian host cities were rising faster than expected. Travel agencies in Germany, Japan, and South Korea began offering packages built exclusively around Canadian matches, not as a political statement, but as a practical solution. The reasoning was simple. Canada's entry process, while not effortless, was perceived as clearer and more predictable. For fans weighing options, predictability matters. Accommodation data tells a similar story. In Vancouver, short-term rental occupancy rates for the tournament month surged early. Hotels reported strong advance bookings from international visitors planning extended stays that combine matches with tourism across British Columbia and Ontario. And here's where the narrative becomes more interesting. Sporting events are about spectacle, but they are also about image. The country that hosts them isn't just providing venues, it's projecting identity. In 2026, the United States has an opportunity to showcase its scale. Canada has an opportunity to showcase its stability. And stability travels well. Inside FIFA, maintaining neutrality and consistency is essential. When public comments emerge suggesting potential relocation of matches due to local disagreements or political tension, governing bodies move quickly to reinforce jurisdiction and protect the tournament's image. Statements clarifying that venue decisions rest with FIFA, not domestic political actors, serve a clear purpose: to preserve confidence. Confidence is currency during global events. As media coverage expanded, a subtle contrast developed. American headlines often focused on visa debates, security concerns, and policy discussions. Canadian coverage emphasized readiness, transportation planning, and cultural programming tied to the tournament. Neither country is failing. Both are capable. But global perception is shaped by tone as much as outcome. Consider the economic stakes. Canada estimates that hosting its share of matches could generate billions in economic activity and sustain tens of thousands of jobs across preparation and event operations. For a nation hosting a smaller portion of the tournament, that impact is significant. Every international visitor who chooses Toronto or Vancouver contributes not only to stadium revenue, but to restaurants, transit systems, hotels, and local businesses. Extended tourism itineraries amplify that effect. Now, zoom out. Soft power, the ability to influence through attraction rather than force, often crystallizes during cultural events. Olympics, expos, World Cups. These moments become tests of competence and openness. For decades, the United States has excelled at spectacle, massive halftime shows, record-breaking attendance, global brand integration. It understands scale. But scale alone doesn't guarantee comfort for visitors navigating embassies, interviews, and entry approvals. In contrast, Canada's advantage lies in predictability. Its political messaging around the tournament has remained restrained. Its logistical planning has emphasized intergovernmental coordination. Its tone toward international visitors has been welcoming and consistent. Online conversations reflect that mood. Travel forums show fans comparing entry requirements and processing times. Social media threads discuss itinerary swaps, shifting from US-heavy schedules to Canada-focused travel plans when uncertainty arises. None of this means the United States will struggle to fill stadiums. Demand remains enormous. Domestic fans alone could generate extraordinary attendance. Corporate sponsors are deeply invested. Infrastructure in cities like Los Angeles, Dallas, and New York is world-class. But the difference between a successful tournament and a transformative one often lies in the margins. If even a modest percentage of international visitors adjust their plans toward Canadian matches, the symbolic weight increases. Because symbolism matters. The 2026 tournament was envisioned as a shared North American celebration. Yet shared does not always mean equal in perception. Canada's smaller footprint creates a strategic advantage. With only 2 host cities, coordination is streamlined. Resource allocation is concentrated. Messaging is unified. There are fewer variables, fewer political actors, fewer potential flashpoints. Meanwhile, the United States must manage a far larger operational footprint across multiple states, time zones, and regulatory environments. Complexity increases exposure to friction. Friction generates headlines. Headlines influence perception. And perception influences future decisions, from tourism to trade to investment. If international visitors leave Canada with memories of seamless transit, friendly volunteers, efficient entry procedures, and vibrant city experiences, that impression extends beyond sport. It becomes part of the country's brand. If visitors encounter long processing times or confusion elsewhere, even isolated incidents can dominate narratives in global media cycles. This is not about rivalry in the traditional sense. Canada and the United States remain close allies and economic partners. They are co-hosts, not competitors on the field, but perception doesn't always follow diplomatic alignment. As kickoff approaches, a quiet question is forming in international commentary. Which country will define the emotional memory of 2026? Will it be the one with the largest venues and loudest broadcasts, or the one that made a rival feel effortless? Leadership in the modern era is less about dominance and more about reliability. Global audiences value countries that deliver on promises without spectacle overshadowing substance. In many ways, 2026 represents a stress test. Can massive systems operate smoothly under intense scrutiny? Can governments coordinate across levels without politicizing logistics? Can a country balance security with accessibility in a way that reassures rather than deters? Canada's preparation strategy suggests it understands that balance. The United States has the resources to deliver an extraordinary tournament. It may well do so. But when policy unpredictability intersects with global travel planning, even perception of friction can redirect flows, and redirected flows accumulate. More bookings to Toronto, more extended stays in Vancouver, more travel packages centered north of the border, more media praise highlighting calm execution. Over time, those incremental shifts shape legacy. When the final whistle blows in 2026, the trophy will belong to one team. But the tournament's broader story will belong to host nations collectively. If current patterns continue, that story may read differently than expected. It may say that the largest share of matches took place in the United States, but the strongest impression of hospitality came from Canada. It may recall that while America projected scale, Canada projected steadiness. It may conclude that in a year meant to spotlight American capacity, a neighboring country quietly elevated its own global standing through discipline and coordination. The scoreboard on the field will capture goals. The scoreboard off the field will capture trust. And trust, once earned on a global stage, lingers long after crowds disperse and stadium lights fade. In that sense, the 2026 World Cup may not just be remembered as the first three-nation tournament in history. It may be remembered as the moment when a smaller host demonstrated that influence doesn't require volume, it requires consistency. The world is watching, not only the matches, but the welcome.